Welcome to Awakening Soul Truth. I'm Robbie Short, this is Allison Ledbetter, and our good friend Kimberly Rose.
Today we are talking all about nature. We are talking about our interaction with nature, how it heals us, guides us, and actually is the greatest tool and asset we have in healing and relating to the authentic self. Kim is here today to really share with us her story of healing cancer.
Yeah, so prior to my diagnosis, I had felt that I was doing everything right. I was eating well, sleeping well, meditating, have a Reiki master training, and I felt like I had the keys to the universe, and I had sort of had my own like little life hack, and I figured it all out. And so when they woke me up in the colonoscopy and told me that I had a 1-inch colon cancer and would needed to have it surgically removed, it rocked my world. And I went through just a lot of emotions through it.
It's very emotional.
Mm-hmm. The shock of it and the belief that I had that this couldn't happen to me. And I felt like I was doing all of the things to prevent something like this.
And I think you were, because even through the beginning part of the pandemic, she was one of my, 3 or 4 students that would show up every week. So it's not that she wasn't doing the work. You were still showing up to do the work and still doing the practice.
Yeah. You know, I went through all of the treatment. I went through 8 inches of my colon was cut out, and I had 80 lymph nodes removed, and there was cancer in one of them. And
you said 80.
80 lymph nodes, and there were cancer cells in one lymph node, and that made it, I was a candidate for chemotherapy. And that was really hard for me to hear, because I didn't really believe that, number one, that my body created this cancer, and that I had to essentially put this poison in my body when I had done so many things to just avoid it and prevent it and try to be in a state of optimal health.
Mm-hmm.
You had a pretty clean diet.
I had a pretty clean diet.
And
yes.
You walked 10 miles a day?
Yes. Meditated daily.
Mm-hmm.
I had clients for Reiki.
And what's interesting is there's so many medical issues that have been coming up for so many different people in the last couple years, whether they were healthy, eating healthy or not, whether they were exercising or not,
right? So,
whether they were induced in the fear mode or not,
right? And that has led me to follow the conventional treatment, and I did that, and my body handled it great. I mean, I never missed a treatment, and my numbers were fine, and I got through it. 12 weeks, 6 rounds of chemotherapy, and then when I had finished my treatment, you know, there's a space for survivors that, now what? Done what I was supposed to do, but now what? How do I prevent this from coming back? How do I move forward? How do I emotionally heal? And for me, it was a sort of a deep dive into my own biology and the biology of the planet, and what am I eating and what am I doing? How did this show up? And you know, I was told to eat the Mediterranean diet, and I started digging into the places in the world where the blue zones, it's called, where people live to be, you know, over 100. Like, what are they doing differently? What is wrong with us here? And
because we do have a very diseased nation.
We have a disease planet, but yes, a disease nation. And anyway, it led me down this path of discovering what like the microbiome is, and how it's all connected to ourselves and the planet at large.
And our relationship with nature.
But this was a crash course into where I fit into the giant ecosystem of life, and I'm allowed to be here, and I'm allowed to speak and to be truth and to just honor who I am and not outsource the I amness of me. And I realize I'm a freaking miracle, and so is everybody else on the planet.
The joy that we are, that arises out of really connecting deeply with your own authentic self, your nature part, the nature part of you.
Right. Through this process and the studying and the little bit of deep diving I've been doing, is our egoic mind has disconnected us from ourselves because we have this scarcity fear and other fears. Everything is a fear. So when you connect to nature and watch how nature exists, and it's perfect, it's miraculous, it's divine, and we are that too. The diet, I did a lot of research on what's going on the planet with food. And in 1996, this is when the GMOs became prevalent in the agricultural industry. And basically, the scientists have created food that is resistant to Roundup. So the glyphosate in Roundup's the main ingredient in Roundup. I mean, it's sprayed over all of our land where the corn grows, where the soybeans grow, and these farmers are getting, government money to grow these types of foods, and they're in every single thing we eat, unless we pay attention to it.
Yeah.
And the research shows that there's only about 50 or 60 harvests left on the planet before we head up into the sixth great extinction.
Oh. Wow.
The topsoil is being depleted.
I was going to say it's depleting the nutrients of the topsoil.
So yes, it's exactly
so Roundup, or maybe chemicals that are sprayed, is to prevent disease to the plant, to boost its actual flavor content, to boost its color. I thought some of it's to actually boost like water intake and being able to hold the water in it. So they're actually changing the cellular structure of our
and so when we eat it, it changes cellular structure in our bodies.
And that's the biggest point. When we eat it, it changes our cellular
So when you
structure.
eat, what's happening is it's killing all of the gut microbiology in our bodies, and so our bodies cannot connect to its natural source.
Something that, since we're talking about food, I wanted to bring up Monsanto.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah.
Monsanto is a company that's come in and taken over the seeds,
that's
taken
the
over
GMO.
a lot of the farmland.
Correct.
And they are also getting filtered into our government system. In fact, there are people who used to work for Monsanto that now are over the FDA.
Yeah.
The Food Drug Administration.
That's exactly right. The industry needs it. It's a vicious cycle, and who suffers? Every organism.
Monsanto has now been purchased by Bayer, and so they actually changed the name because Bayer has such a beautiful place for heart health, and so they actually changed the name because of the negative connotations that actually really started with Monsanto, and it was getting a lot of coverage, and people were really speaking out. It changed the name to Bayer, and then we actually headed into the pandemic.
Right, so Bayer now is going to change the name. It's not going to be called the Roundup or glyphosate. And they're putting in different pesticides and different organisms that are going to just different face, different place, but essentially the same thing.
So the question is, why are we not trusting nature? Why do we feel that we need to control nature?
It's ego and the lack of the scarcity mentality.
Well, and trust. We don't trust nature because it would mean we weren't first.
That's right.
It would mean that nature's first, or our connection
and
to
we've
it
been
would be
trying
first.
to, sort of beat nature and hack nature.
Yeah.
And create this germ warfare when really we are all in community. If you think about how the cells in your body work, it's all a communication system. And what I've learned is a cancer cell is an isolated cell, and it doesn't know how to repair itself. So the only thing it can do is replicate itself, and it uses the energy from the healthy cells to replicate itself. It's lost its communication. And you take that's at the micro level. Look at the macro level in our society. What is happening? We are disconnected from each other. We are filling our gaps of sense of self with binging on Netflix, buying more stuff, thinking that is going to fill us up. I've come across some pretty good experts in the field of nature, the microbiology, the microbiome, our soil, our society, our humanity, our species. And it really comes down to this isolationist theory and this disconnection from who we really are. And there's a scarcity mentality versus the abundance. Discovered that nature is actually synonymous with God. And
That's beautiful.
we are
I
all...
love that. Let's hear that again. Say it one more time.
Well, I mean, it just really shows you that if you really want to know God, spend some time with a tree. I mean, or put your feet in sand.
Buddha did become enlightened under a tree.
There's so much intelligence and so much information from nature, and we don't take the time to connect to it.
We don't. We take the time to control it.
Right.
We take the time to isolate from it, to be in high rises, to look at a screen all day.
Yep.
To even exercising inside.
Yep.
When you need vitamin D, a minimum of 20 minutes a day. The vitamin D apparently is the thing that unifies the communication system of your health.
Well, we are light. To make our, humanity to make itself more comfortable, we've disconnected ourselves from nature.
Absolutely.
We live in plastic houses, drive plastic cars, hold these devices that we have no idea what they're made of, and we sleep next to this stuff, and we eat fake food. Everything is just fake. So when you go to the whole diet piece goes into that our nature provides us everything we need for health. It's all there. But we've tried to find easier ways, more efficient ways, biohacking it, when really it's not intended for that.
It has it figured out.
It's smarter than we are.
Yeah, absolutely.
And and that's where our disconnect came in. Some of the experts I'm reading and learning about and investigating with, they the demise of our species started with building fences. This is mine, this is yours. Well, you can't help yourself when you're not helping other people or it's a community. We're not part of a community anymore. And our gut microbiome is all a community. And we have sterilized the planet by the introduction of antibiotics, by the introduction of Roundup, by the introduction of the antibacterial everything. But we need dirt. We need fungi, parasites, viruses, bacteria. That's why we're here. It's all a sense of community.
And there's such a rejection of nature, actually. Like, people have a really hard time being outside or being in the dirt, and they think it's dirty. And they have really put this negative spin on being in nature.
Right.
But in fact, our biology, our beingness counts on it. We are nature. We cannot be disconnected.
And you cannot separate. We can, and then we are allowing ourselves to become extinct. Yes. But if you notice, and if you ever thought about it, when the dinosaurs became extinct, so when the dinosaurs were roaming the earth, there was ferns and dinosaurs, and that was their main flora, were the ferns. And so they become extinct, and Mother Nature just basically repopulated the earth with humans, deciduous trees, flowering trees. Mother Nature will always prevail. Yes. We can either bear witness to it and be part of it, or we will be part of that extinction process.
Yeah, even after the great floods, there was still life.
Right.
Even after there are tremendous forest fires, they come back to life.
They come back. And if you look at like a concrete sidewalk,
flowers
they're
will grow
trying to
through.
come up through. So I think the relationship with nature needs to be reconnected.
Yes.
And what I've learned with the cancer cells is they're isolated. They think they're the only thing left, and their only means of survival, they can't repair themselves. They've lost all their energy. So they use the energy from healthy cells. And we're starting as a macro system. We are losing our own energy, and we're slowly killing ourselves. So there was a study done that the 96.8 is your temperature, and during the pandemic, when people were getting them measured, healthy individuals that are getting measured with their temperature before they go into an indoor space,
Right.
it was lowering to like 96 point something. So we're basically freezing ourselves out. We're losing energy.
Oh, how interesting.
And how do you reconnect with the energy? It's very simple. Spend time with God. And what is that? Spend time in nature. Breathe in, diverse ecosystems. Eat diverse foods.
So
Closest to the, lowest on the food chain.
eating foods that are alive, eating foods
high
that
vibrational
are from
foods.
nature directly.
Right.
That haven't been sitting around or canned for
Yeah.
ever.
I mean, back to the conveniences.
I'm going to bring this up because we're talking about food and what's in our food. I do an eating meditation in my yoga classes just about every Halloween, and I usually give them an option of like a Dove chocolate, or I give them a slice of orange. Well, the oranges I got one year were so freaking delicious that one of my students had gone to the grocery store immediately after class to go buy a bundle of oranges.
Was it a Sumo?
It wasn't the Sumo.
I love those
This
oranges.
was before I knew the Sumos
Okay.
existed. And the person came back to me and said, "You will not believe it, but I bought a thing of oranges. And when I got it home, I was reading the label and it said food coloring added, okay, to make the orange more orange."
And that's a very good example of us needing it to be shiny and polished and perfect for
Right.
our consumption, or
Yeah,
perfect
meat
for it
shouldn't
to be
be in a
our
plastic.
life.
That is not how our biologically bodies are supposed to eat, is in plastic.
I think our connection to nature and wanting it to be perfect is saying that we need to be perfect. But this form of perfection is actually disconnected and artificial
100%.
and based on things outside of ourselves, instead of perfection being, I did commune with nature.
Yeah, that's exactly.
My beauty is natural.
And
I am
I'm
not-
allowed to I'm allowed to express myself the way I'm expressing myself. My beautiful genome is expressing itself, and
Yeah.
you have a space here. You're allowed to be here. You're part of it.
Yes, and there's so much variety and uniqueness just in nature, just like there's variety and uniqueness amongst each person.
Exactly. So the micro system shows the macro system. They're mirrors of each other. And when you isolate people and you isolate yourself, you're going to create disease, because we as biological beings and vibrational beings, physics comes before biology, we need to be with each other.
Yes. And with
There-
nature.
There needs to be a sense of community.
Yeah.
I actually read an article recently, and it was talking about how we were just talking about, to get vitamin D from the sun. And it was actually saying it's really important to be outside at different phases of the day through different phases with the sun.
Oh, nice.
So, getting some morning light, getting some afternoon light, getting some late, when it's dusk
Yeah.
as well.
One of the first things I heard about resetting my clock for sleeping, because I might not be a great sleeper, is go out first thing in the morning and allow yourself to witness the sunrise.
That's right.
And
You're creating your circadian rhythm.
yes, and then you reset with that. So that happens too when you travel across seas, when you reset by looking at the sun and watching the moon go down and the
Yep.
sun go down, you really reset with your connection and the rhythm of the earth.
Yeah.
There is a rhythm to the earth. That's what people don't get.
Yeah.
There really is. The other night we were walking, and there were deer everywhere. And we always have deer in our neighborhood, but not this many. And Rob was like, why is there so many deer? I was like, it's a new moon.
Yeah, they recognize it. They know. There's so much intelligence.
If there's less light from the moon, they're safer to be out from predators.
There was an interesting article to piggyback on this. Bees buzz in the key of C. So
in the what?
The key, like the musical key of C.
Oh.
So people that have post-traumatic stress syndrome, there's a study showing that that population, when exposed to the buzzing of the vitamin C for a period of time, it actually helps them heal PTSD.
Wow.
So doing this deep dive into nature, I needed something to be able to connect with. It's very obvious to me now that I am as natural as the tree outside. I am as natural as the star. I am made from the same stuff that nature is made from.
Yeah, it is true. Science says we are made of the same.
We are. That science says.
Stars.
And when you have that acorn that falls from the tree and all the leaves fall, that is feeding the microbiome in the population for millions of species, which shows the connection to nature. And humans are disconnected.
I'm sure you guys have seen this, but there's a beautiful depiction, and I actually put it on one of our stories a few weeks ago, where it shows the design of the lung and puts it in comparison with the design of a tree.
Oh, beautiful.
And the tributary of the Chesapeake
Because they're the lungs of the earth.
That the earth, as they call her Gaia, they call her the Mother Earth, because she has these integral systems that looks like, the waterways look like our veins.
That's right.
And I've also seen like the walnut looks like the brain.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's good for brain health. Like there's all this sacred geometry.
Isn't it interesting the way that
the kidney bean with the kidneys?
Yeah.
When you get out of your own personal problems, your own stuff, when you get away from that and you serve others and you connect with others, there's healing in that. There's profound healing in that.
Yes, there is.
And we think that, part of our society wants to wear the greatest outfit or binge the greatest show or have the greatest product, and it's a filling of a gap of us feeling like we're not enough. But when you take a step back and just be with yourself, that you are this miraculous, divine being that is chosen, the bunch of cells that are working together, like there is no immunity, there is no immune organ. We are an immune system. As a general, as a human, we are the immune system.
This is true.
I was just listening to a TED Talk the other day, and it was from someone who lived in the Amazon forest.
Well, they're indigenous.
It's
an indigenous group.
Population of
and
the
this
Amazon.
young gentleman was saying that his grandfather was the first in their tribe to meet a white man. And they actually had a pleasant meetup, even though they couldn't speak each other's language, and his grandfather was gifted a knife. So luckily there was a nicety about their exchange, but he was saying because they had this introduction into their tribe, there was a lot of sickness that came in because this white man that came into their tribe and they befriended was carrying germs that they had not been exposed to. And so they started getting the cold, they started getting the flu, and some of the people did die. But then they started to build their natural immunity system from being exposed to this, and they survived it.
That's right. And that shows you there's some indigenous peoples that are still live in the villages in West Africa. And the hunters and gatherers, they go out and they get the zebra. And then when they come home, all the kids climb all over their parent. And they're getting that microbiome too. And then when they eat whatever they're going to eat, it's so healing because they've already have that microbiome and that diversity. And petting your dog, whatever it is, when you connect to nature at its
and not sterilize it, like not sterilizing all the food that we absorb.
And that's really what Roundup is. Roundup is a big, gigantic antibiotic that kills everything. And when we ingest it, we don't have the bacteria that feeds the immune system we don't have it in our guts anymore. We're giving all our energy away, becoming very sterile. We clean everything, and we're not, it's like a germ warfare that's for the disconnected. Nature never intended us to be fear of each other, us against nature. Because the microbiome and the gut flow and all of the community sense, even at that level, is missing.
Yes. They say that you inherit your mom's or your parents' microbiology.
Right, and when 25% of the babies are now being born via cesarean section, they're not getting that initial gut microbiome and immunity buildup, so they're disconnecting from self.
And that comes just from the birth? That type of birth?
Right. The gut, though, often is the duplicative gut of the mothers, and they're finding that is decreasing, especially with a mother that has a number of children. By the last child, their micro gut health is not as good as the first child's, unless the mother is replenishing it and being very clear about that connection to nature. So we're so disconnected that our children are coming out. And I think what we're trying to say is that your mental health is a direct
because
reflection.
the gut microbiome is, or that whole thing starts in your brain.
Yeah.
It's not just your colon. I mean, it is.
It's absolutely every part
which
of
is
your
why
biology.
People are having, they're on antidepressants. And they say apparently with one round of antibiotics in 1 year, your chance of having depression increases by 24% because you're disconnected from self
and your biology.
Isn't it interesting that through the mid-century, doctors were pushing formula instead of women breastfeeding their children? And luckily, there's been a resurgence over the last 15 years or more. To bring breastfeeding back for the immunity system.
You have to have it. It was illegal to breastfeed in public. It just, I cracked up when it became public again. I'm like, what? That was a thing? You weren't allowed to breastfeed?
And that goes right back to how we are disconnected, that we are,
that's the most natural thing ever.
Right, but it got sexualized. The breast became sexualized and not what it was meant for.
Right.
It's actually a
feeding
vessel.
mechanism.
And once you breastfeed, then you're like, okay, there is no sexual energy about this at all.
Right.
I don't think that way.
Okay, well, there's that.
It actually turned mine up.
As it should.
Yes.
As it should.
There's also something in the Japanese culture called forest bathing. And so forest bathing is a wonderful way to connect to nature, and you're just out there absorbing, letting go of distractions.
And that shows it lowers blood pressure, and it creates, it fosters more creativity.
And earthing is something that I heard about actually through Deepak Chopra. He came to Nashville a few years ago, written a new book, and he was at Vanderbilt University. And I went and heard a talk from him, and he was really encouraging everybody to do earthing. And I had never heard of that term until he shared it with us. But earthing is basically going barefoot, whether it's sand, whether it's
collecting all that
grass, or
so much intelligence,
soil, and it lowers inflammation in the body. And it actually helps to rebalance our own
because typically all we wear are rubber shoes, and even a baby, similar to what you're saying, they're born C-section, and then you put on rubber shoes when they're 1, and they don't even touch the earth for...
So the message is, play in the abundance of nature. Go out and explore and
breathe
be
in different ecosystems, 100%. Don't micromanage your gut microbiome by buying probiotics in a plastic jar. There's trillions of bacteria, fungi, parasites, and viruses that live in our body. And when we try to buy that little bottle that has 300 billion, 6 different strains, we're creating a monoculture.
Yeah.
So what's happening is we're edging out all of the immune system by trying to micromanage the gut. When Mother Nature never intended it to be that complicated. But we have overcomplicated it because of the agriculture.
When I lead a retreat in Portugal, when I lead a retreat in Greece, or wherever I'm going that's out of the country, I feel so great. My body detoxes. I feel light. I'm not lethargic.
You're always in a good mood.
Yeah, I'm not getting these peaks and lows
right.
through the day.
Stressors are completely monitored.
My digestive system's on track. Yeah. And then I come back to the United States, and as soon as I start eating our food, it's just...
Yeah.
This is very true. So you're saying they don't have as many chemicals in their culture.
Although Italy is starting to. My friend just got back from Italy, and the farmers in Tuscany were super bummed. They're like, they're starting to have so many pesticides on everything here now too. So I mean,
so the other thing that is really important to learn from this is that one ingredient foods are your best bet for your microderm, and to grow that. So your gut health and your basic health is a one ingredient non-processed food. You can put healthy ingredients together, but when you are looking at our food system, the artificial part of it is that, like, let's take the obvious McDonald's French fry. That's 17 ingredients.
right.
It's not
a potato.
It's not a
By the
potato
way,
anymore.
And there's nothing wrong with just a potato. But that
really
has been a
good.
problem now too.
And by the way, Mr. Gates bought a bunch of land and is growing all the potatoes specifically for McDonald's.
Oh, that's sick.
So that's that goes back to why we're all falling apart. I mean, it really, really does.
So today,
Wait,
yes,
one more thing. Since we're discussing nature and how nature plays such an important role in health and well-being, it's also such a great stress reliever to be able to step away from the world, to step away from your job, to step away from your responsibilities, and just commune with what's outdoors.
Yep.
Because stress is the leading cause of disease.
Yep, it is.
And emotions, because emotions create dis-ease in the body. And if you stay stuck in that emotion, then it could develop into disease.
absolutely. The reset that happens when you connect with nature just by earthing, walking, standing next to water is the most powerful.
Because we're 70% water.
Touching a tree. It might sound corny, but it actually
The amount
is
of
the best thing.
intelligence that you gain when you do those things.
Yeah. The
It
interconnection.
resets.
The interconnection.
And then to touch each other, like connect. Like nobody touches, nobody hugs, everyone's afraid of everything.
Yeah.
You know?
Don't breathe on me from COVID.
Don't breathe on me.
Breathe on me.
Right.
That's why yoga took such a big hit.
Yeah.
That's because we focus on breathing.
You breathe, right.
Yeah. And so you got the whole yoga community really plummeted because you weren't allowed to breathe.
You weren't
anymore.
allowed to breathe.
Everybody's scared to breathe. Even
Right.
when people came back and I was instructing breath. And then even instructing breath, I had to be cautious on, well, let's just breathe through the nose.
And so that's such a false illusion of safety. Just like the masks were pretty much a false illusion.
Yeah.
That isolated us even more. Like, just do your...
Microbiome.
Yeah, you're only exposed to your microbiome. You
Right.
know, don't bring anything
And
in.
that basically puts you in isolation.
Right, and so there was a huge resurgence of the other diseases that are natural that run through our environment because nature has a way of cyclically.
Well, because when
putting
you're
things-
in balance and with nature,
Yeah.
then you can handle an upper chest infection that doesn't need an antibiotic. You can handle it.
Yeah, your body.
But we have isolated ourselves from even being able to not run to get go to the doctor for that.
Well, I'm sorry, but didn't you know you had to take cough medicine to get right back to work like this,
Yeah.
like that? So, get back to work. All right.
No break. No break for you.
Yeah. Please take medicine so you can not take your time to rest and rebuild and connect and reset.
Nature's never in a rush. We are. There's so many cues and clues that we can take from our playground, essentially. And that leads us to the next thing is that we don't play, and we're not since we don't play. Playing is the best evolutionary way of showing cooperation. And we don't play anymore.
Yeah. We think drinking is playing, or
Right.
we think these extreme sports or these extreme
And gambling is playing.
places.
Right.
Disney World playing.
Mm-hmm.
Playing to me, really sitting in nature, looking at patterns,
Yeah.
feeling it is
Being part of it.
absolutely been one of the best healing tools for my family. I mean, we take hikes on a regular basis.
Even looking at the palm of your hand,
Yeah.
it looks like the veins of a leaf.
100%.
Oh, that's beautiful.
You know, people say you need to connect to love. And this is like, love is sort of this evasive thing. So if you consider saying you connect to, you don't have to be taught how to admire a sunset, right?
Right.
You don't have to be taught that the fragrance of a flower smells good.
Mm-hmm.
So really what I think it is our purpose is to experience, it's to see and know the beauty so that we can experience love. Does that make sense?
That is so remarkable to really think about the expansion of loving
The word
everything
love
we see.
is like,
You know,
what
you
is
guys,
that?
I think
It's too
this
much
was the whole
ownership.
lesson that Buddha gave when he showed up with his followers and just held up one flower.
Yeah.
And from that kind of parable or story, only one monk understood what he was trying to say, and it is that
It's if you
it's that
see the beauty,
bounty, expansive
and
nature.
encourage you, because you don't have to be taught that.
Mm-hmm.
You're not taught. You just are. Even in your darkest day, you can still see the beauty in that sunset.
Yeah.
So when I was like laying in that chemo, you know, I was recovering chemotherapy, and I was on my back porch, and you know, we were surrounded by that little buffer of woods. I mean, it wasn't exactly a forest, but let's just call it what it, you know. I could experience that beauty of the wind. Like I even as sad as I was and as hard as it was, that you can still be part of that beauty and experience that love.
Absolutely.
So the difference between just love everything and you'll be happy, like that doesn't resonate with most people. What does that even mean? But you can experience and see the beauty, which ultimately causes the feeling and the experience of love.
And then wanting and desiring to match that by giving beauty, by upholding beauty.
Right.
So
Being the beauty.
I think it's natural for us to really go into that space of wanting to eat one ingredient foods. Or
Right, it's
wanting to
seeing the
feed
beauty of your own
kindness.
divinity, so you're going to feed it well.
And you feel it.
You feel it.
So much
It's a
better.
feeling. It's a feeling. 100%.
And that's the power of nature to reset us.
Right. Right.
All right. So we're going to take time to meditate now on the tree of life. We always recommend sitting outside in nature and feeling the divine connection to nature. Taking a deep breath in. Allowing yourself to sink into the breath. Remembering that with each breath you take, you are inhaling the most magnificent biome. The breath of life. Deep breathing. Allowing your body to naturally move and shift into the breath as you release stress. Now we'll take our consciousness and notice how your feet and your sit bones are connected to the ground below you. Feeling the support of Mother Earth beneath you. Allowing roots to grow out of the soles of your feet. Like a tree, and digging down into the earth through her grass, the dirt, the aliveness of the earth. just rooting. Until you come across a big boulder. Allowing your roots to just wrap around that boulder and ground you to Mother Earth. These roots are Mother Nature, connecting you to her perfectly balanced life force energy. Allowing yourself to grow into a trunk, connecting to your pelvis. I am rooted and grounded to Mother Earth. With every breath, bring in her vibration. I am resetting my divine nature. I am connected to Mother Earth. Allowing that trunk to grow all the way up your abdomen into your torso, absorbing Mother Earth's truth and vibration, softening and resetting. And as you move up to the torso, allow branches to start to grow out of you, reaching into the sky and the air, extending from your chest, from your shoulders, your back, reaching and growing up and becoming a magnificent tree. Bringing in life force energy. Allowing the breath and the energy surrounding you to be absorbed through the tips of those branches, coming all the way down and into your being, nurturing you, resetting you. Feel the flow of life through you. Dropping down into your heart, synchronizing with the movement of Mother Nature through every cell, every vein, every root, and every branch of your being. I am Mother Nature. I am synchronized with her vibration. I reset and know the natural world as my truth. I embrace the sun. I embrace the water. I resonate with Mother Earth, and I remember that I can heal naturally and instantly as I vibrate with her. I am fully connected to the natural world. I am in perfect health. I am in perfect balance. When you're ready, start to open your eyes and just notice the natural world around you. Feeling balanced and ready for life to flow with ease. Thank you for joining us today.